Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Jared Talks Politics. I haven't made a video on this channel in a little while, but I thought that, it was a good time to make something. So, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to be taking the political test. I felt that now would be a good time to do it so that you have more of an idea about where I stand politically, so you can kind of get an idea of more about who I am, what my values are, and all that good stuff. I'll link this down below, so if you guys want to go take it, and you might actually surprise yourself. So we're going to run through the test, and as we're going along, I'll probably have some kind of commentary on specific questions and things like that, why I answered a certain way. Sometimes they'll be pretty obvious, and other times they won't be. And when it's not obvious, then, of course, I'll explain. Okay, so let's go ahead and just jump right into it. Okay, so this is the main page. This test is called the Political Compass, and it's actually pretty informative. If you look over here on the left, you can take the test right here up in the front, and it gives you a bunch of languages to choose from. It has an analysis, your personalized certificate, ideological music, which is kind of interesting. This right here is what I found really cool, was a reading list. So I guess depending on what you align with, if you're authoritarian left, authoritarian right, libertarian left, libertarian right, then you can have things for you to read, I suppose. I don't think that we're going to get into that because this test is kind of long. So we'll probably not have a lot of time to, go over that stuff, and I don't want to make this video too long. But this right here gives you a nice little introduction. Yeah, let's just go ahead and get into this. So we'll take the test. Okay, so there's 6 pages, and there's lots of questions. There are no right or wrong answers on this test. It's just to show you where you align with politically. And then, we'll discuss the results at the end. But let's go ahead and start this. It says just a few propositions to start with concerning, no less, how you see the country and the world. So, first one is, if economic globalization is inevitable, it should primarily serve humanity rather than the interest of transnational corporations. That I strongly agree with. I am always for serving humanity. I am a secular humanist, as well as being on the political left, as well as also being an atheist. Well, that secular means without religion, so yeah. Moving on, I'd always support my country whether it was right or wrong. I disagree with that. If the United States does something wrong, I'm going to disagree completely with that decision, and I would not support that decision. When the country's doing right, absolutely I'll support it. But I can't, in good consciousness, support my country doing terrible things. My family comes from Germany, and that part of history is just terrible. I do not agree with that, and I cannot defend that. And I can't support that either. But, I mean, that's not to say that I don't support the United States. Of course I do. But when they're doing wrong, I'm not supporting that one particular area, which is why I disagree with that statement. The next one says, no one chooses his or her country of birth, so it's foolish to be proud of it. I actually agree with this. I think it's kind of silly to be proud of your country. You can be proud of the accomplishments that people have done from your country. But why are you proud that you were born into a wealthy nation or an impoverished nation? That has nothing to do with anything. It's totally random and has no bearing on you as an individual. Next, our race has many superior qualities compared with other races. I strongly disagree with that. No one race has a superior quality over another race. There might be individuals, or the majority of these individuals of this particular race of people, which is silly because I hate using the word races because it just doesn't work in this context. I just don't like it. I don't really like in Charles Darwin's The Origin of Species, when he used races of plants. I just think that term, it's hard to explain, but I just don't like using it. I don't think that it is a proper or adequate way of explaining something. So the next one, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Disagree. You're still my enemy. I'm sorry, but you are my enemy. I can't be friends with you because I'm not going to throw my ideals under the bus just to go against a quote unquote greater evil. And I hate using quote unquote. I don't like using that phrase either. But it just fit in this context. Military action that defies international law is sometimes justified. If it's defying international law, I disagree with that. It's never justified. And that one I would think would be fairly obvious. Now, some people I know would say, oh, well, I mean, if it's, you have to do what you have to do in certain cases, but I don't ever think that that's such a case that you would ever, I don't see a situation where you can justify breaking international law. Like, the laws are set up in a way that it's pretty to the point and everything. And there's not really a whole lot that you could say, well, maybe this law isn't quite good enough. And of course there are provisions that allow you to get around international law in specific situations, but that's written into the law. So, defying the international laws completely is just wrong. There is now a worrying fusion of information and entertainment. I don't know if it's worrying fusion of information and entertainment. I think that there is a fusion happening, and sometimes it is tough to tell what is actually what in this situation. What's what? I hate that sentence. There's a lot of things that I don't like saying. It's tough to tell if the information is accurate. I'll put it like that. Not to say that you can't go and research it, but for most people that I've known, they don't really do a lot of research. They take it at face value and then say, oh, well, I guess that's it then. Because if it agrees with how they feel, then they don't say anything against something that agrees with them. But if it is something that disagrees with them, then they'll put their fingers in their ears and scream real loud. And that old trope. So let's go to the next page. Let's see. People are ultimately divided more by class than by nationality. I would say I kind of agree. I wish there was a fifth option where that was somewhere in between agree and disagree, because that one's kind of weird. In certain cases, yes. In certain cases, no. But I'll probably say that I do agree with that, because there seems to be more of an emphasis on where people stand as far as I'm rich and you're not rich. Um, in today's society, I think that more than ever, we're more divided by class than nationality. So I'll say I agree with that one. Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. This one's actually kind of it's kind of interesting. Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. I'll disagree. I think employment and getting that under control, it's a lot more pressing matter than controlling inflation. Inflation's pretty historically difficult to control, and we can always do things to remedy unemployment. Uh, so I would disagree with that statement. Let's see. Because corporations cannot be trusted to voluntarily protect the environment, they require regulation. I agree. And the reason for that is that before regulations, people were just dumping shit everywhere. I'll actually change that one to strongly agree. But yeah, I mean, that's the example that I can give is like using plastic bags. Well, plastic bags are very harmful to the environment, and it makes more sense to use paper bags because the paper bags are more biodegradable and they are safer for the environment. So without regulating that businesses have to use paper bags instead of plastic bags, they'll just use the plastic bags because the plastic bags will be cheaper, thus saving the company money. And, it's just a ridiculous thing to do. I mean, is saving a few dollars really that important to you that you're not going to take care of the environment for your future generations? I feel that the environment is a little bit more important than your bottom dollar, but that's just me. From each according to his ability to each according to his need is a fundamentally good idea. From each according to his ability to each according to his need is a fundamentally good idea. I would say that I do agree with that. That seems pretty straightforward. It's a sad reflection on our society that something as basic as drinking water is now bottled, branded consumer product. I agree with that. I think it's just silly that we are buying water, which used to be free. I don't understand why a natural resource can be branded. I mean, it's not. I get that people have to go and collect the water, but most people have water coming to their homes. So I don't understand the need to bottle water and then brand it as like, oh, look at our water. Okay, it's the same as this other water. What's so great about that? It is kind of silly. I don't know if it's so much sad, but it is silly. Land shouldn't be a commodity to be bought and sold. I do disagree with that. Otherwise, people could just set up, right on your property, and, you can't legally tell them to leave if land cannot be bought and sold. That takes away ownership of that plot of land that you have. So that's, I'm not, an anarchist where I'm just going to be like, hey, just, take whatever you need. It is regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to their society. I do agree with that. If you're not contributing to society, then why do you need all that money? You're literally not doing anything. At least people that build up businesses from the ground up are at least contributing by giving people jobs and stimulating the economy in that fashion. But, for people that just inherit just millions and millions of dollars, and then they just don't do anything but, sit out all day on their yacht and just don't do anything. You're not doing anything, give some of that money back to the communities or to some organization that takes care of like sick kids or something. I don't know. Protectionism is sometimes necessary in trade. I would agree with that. I think that there might be certain scenarios where protectionism would work in trade. I don't know specifically what those would be. I guess it just depends on what you're trading and all the laws for that and everything. The only social responsibility of a company should be to deliver a profit to its shareholders. Strongly disagree. You're not just working for your shareholders. You have a business. It would be beneficial to take care of your employees. And the reason is that, studies have shown that when employees are happy, the company thrives. If they're working long hours and they're not happy with their work, chances are they're not going to want to do a good job for you, and then it's going to end up hurting you. So, companies do have more social responsibilities than just to provide a profit to shareholders. Shareholders should be one of the last things on their mind. The rich are too highly taxed. I very much strongly disagree with that, especially today, as the rich just got a major tax cut and the Republicans are trying to give them an even bigger one. They are paying a historic low tax rate, so yeah, I don't think they're being too highly taxed. That's ridiculous. Those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care. This is a tricky one. So I do support Medicare for all. However, if you want to pay more for higher standards, I think maybe, it just depends. Actually, this isn't really all that much, because I'm thinking about this in a different way. At first, I was thinking more on the lines of that if you want extra, like cosmetic surgery done on your face, like if you wanted like a nose job or collagen put in your lips or something, that you could pay extra. And then, that some stuff like that is not covered because it's purely cosmetic. It does nothing to improve your health or anything like that. So I disagree that they should have higher standards of medical care. But as far as getting other operations that aren't life-threatening or that you don't really need, yeah, sure, you can go ahead and pay for those. But I think that universal basic health care should be, if you break your arm, you have to go to the hospital, you're good. If you get sick with the flu, you get your shots, you're good. You need an x-ray, you're good. If you need a boob job, well, you got to pay for that because your life is not in immediate danger. I can't think of a scenario in which you would be in danger from not having your tits enlarged, but governments should penalize businesses that mislead the public. Agree. If you're taking advantage of people, then that is wrong. And of course, there are, varying degrees of that, but I typically fight against people being misled, which is why I do not like religions. A genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinationals to create monopolies. I would agree with that. I think there do need to be certain restrictions on monopolies. So, like, one company can't get in there and then just take control of everything. Now, in certain situations, monopolies can work. But there are certain other situations where monopolies are terrible. Like a monopoly on televisions is a bad idea. A monopoly on cars is a bad idea. A monopoly on energy, maybe not such a bad idea. Now, that would be for people to provide it. Now, you can do research and say, okay, so how can we improve the energy that we're giving people? What can we do to make better and cleaner energy, more renewable stuff like that? That's not really, business practices. That's, scientists working on that stuff. So for certain things, monopolies are kind of okay, and then other times they're never okay. The freer the market, the freer the people. Freer the market, freer the people. I don't know if that's always the case. Now, I do support a free market, but not free to where there's no rules. So, if people are allowed to purchase things, if that's the case in a free market, you can purchase whatever you want to from any company at any time. I do agree with that, but I don't know what context this freer the market, freer the people is supposed to be referring to. I'll disagree because I don't know if that's always the case. Oh boy. Right off the bat on page 3. Abortion, when the woman's life is not threatened, should always be illegal. Strongly disagree. I am 100% pro-choice. That doesn't mean that... Oh, sorry, I just bumped the mic. That does not mean that I am for women having abortions. I am for people having the choice to have a safe abortion. All authorities should be questioned. Agree. Why should they not be questioned? That is the question that I would ask somebody that disagrees with that statement. Because at the end of the day, if somebody tells you something, you don't just take it at face value. I believe that everything should be questioned. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Disagree. That's kind of barbaric. Oh, somebody mentioned me in a comment. Hooray! Taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any theaters or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis. That's a very weird statement. So let's see. Taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any theaters or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis. As museums and a museum, I would say that I would disagree with that. A theater, I would agree. So I'm not sure which one to pick here. I think that museums take precedent over theaters. Art is important, but that you can put art in a museum. Performing arts, like theaters, I do feel that they are very important. However, museums take the precedent, so... I'll disagree with that one. Schools should not make classroom attendance compulsory. Disagree. I think that you have to go to class in order to learn things. That's pretty obvious. All people have their rights, but it is better for all of us that different sorts of people should keep to their own kind. Strongly disagree. I don't understand the logic behind that. And I know that there are people that think that too, and that is just stupid. Good parents sometimes have to spank their children. I disagree. There have been studies done that show that that's actually detrimental to children's mental health. It's the same reason why you shouldn't hit your animals for doing undesirable behavior. It's natural for children to keep some secrets from their parents. Okay, that's obvious. Of course it is. Possessing marijuana for personal use should not be a criminal offense. Strongly agree. Marijuana should not be illegal in the first place. I am for the legalization of that. The prime function of schooling should be to equip the future generation to find jobs. I disagree. The prime function of schooling should be to pass on as much knowledge as possible, because once you have that knowledge, it makes it easier for you to get a job. So focusing on making the kids learn is going to inevitably lead them to getting a job. But if you focus on just them getting a job, then they might miss out on something else. And then they'll just stop. Like they won't go back for, secondary school or anything like that, like, college or any other certifications. People with serious inheritable disabilities should not be allowed to reproduce. I don't know if they should not, but in some cases they cannot. I'm going to disagree with that, because whether or not they should, or I don't understand why that would be an agreeable statement. At least not for me. I mean, who am I to tell somebody what they should or should not do? The most important thing for children to learn is to accept discipline. Wrong. That one's pretty obvious. It's more of these barbaric statements I just do not agree with. There are no savage and civilized peoples. There are only different cultures. I agree with that. What is savage to one group is civilized to another. Although there are civilizations, and then there are people that are not civilized, but that doesn't automatically make them savage. So I think that statement is malformed. Those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society's support. I actually agree with that. I think that if you have the ability to work, you should work. Otherwise, don't expect a handout. It's just, I don't understand why if people would not. I mean, you have the ability to work. Just work. It's a lot easier for everybody if you just do what you got to do. Now, there are lots of people that do have disabilities that cannot work, and they should not be working. Although I have seen people with disabilities working, and I'm thinking, you don't have to do this, but I commend those people that do that. I mean, that just shows their character. But yeah, let's move on to the next one. When you are troubled, it's better not to think about it, but to keep busy with more cheerful things. When you're troubled, I guess I would agree with that because it's not good to dwell on negative thoughts and emotions. Um, so yeah, I guess I would agree with that one. First generation immigrants can never be fully integrated within their new country. Strongly disagree. You can always be fully integrated. Otherwise, how would anybody be integrated? What's good for the most successful corporations is always ultimately good for all of us. Disagree. Um, what's good for the most successful corporations is money and them raking in tons and tons of money. And the people at the very top, the CEOs and everybody, are going to hoard that money. And they're not going to pay their fair share of taxes. And they're going to hide it in offshore Swiss bank accounts. And then they're going to pass all those millions onto their kids. And then the cycle is going to continue. So, no, it's not ultimately always good for us. No broadcasting institution, however independent its content, should receive public funding. I disagree with that one. I think that a broadcasting institution, even if they are independent or not, can receive public funding. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you can support, things with your money. I mean, that's part of a free market, isn't it? Okay, page 406, how you see the wider society. Our civil liberties are being excessively curbed in the name of counterterrorism. Interesting. Being excessively curbed? I would say I agree, but with a caveat that I don't think it's excessively. I think it is being curbed in the name of counterterrorism, but I don't know about excessively. A significant advantage of a one-party state is that it avoids all the arguments that delay progress in a democratic political system. I disagree with that. You're still going to have people arguing, which is why you can't have a one-party state. Because you're always going to have people that disagree with you. You're never going to get rid of disagreements. And then that would be more of an authoritarian position to have one party ruling everybody else. Although the electronic age makes official surveillance easier, only wrongdoers need to be worried. I actually disagree with that. People can take advantage of that system, and we've seen examples of that happening. The death penalty should be an option for the most serious crimes. Strongly disagree. I do not believe in the death penalty. I am of the position that it is cruel and unusual punishment. In a civilized society, one must always have people above to be obeyed and people below to be commanded. Disagree. You shouldn't just obey people. And there shouldn't be people that are just there to be commanded. That's ridiculous. Abstract art that doesn't represent anything shouldn't be considered art at all. Disagree strongly. Art is art. Whether it's abstract, whether it's real life, it is an expression of the person that is doing that art and therefore is art. In criminal justice, punishment should be more important than rehabilitation. Strongly disagree. You should always go for rehabilitation. It is a waste of time to try to rehabilitate some criminals. I don't think it's a waste of time. You don't know until you try. The business person and the manufacturer are more important than the writer and the artist. Strongly disagree. Nobody's more important than anybody else. Mothers may have careers, but their first duty is to be homemakers. Strongly disagree. That's so backwards thinking. I don't even need to talk about that one. Multinational companies are unethically exploiting the plant genetic resources of developing countries. That does not make sense. Multinational companies are unethically exploiting the plant genetic resources. I think that this shouldn't be here. The genetic resources of developing countries. I would agree with that somewhat. In some cases, that is happening. Not all cases, but yeah. If you're exploiting another country's genetic resources, then yeah, no, that's unethical. Making peace with the establishment is an important aspect of maturity. Disagree. Why do you have to make peace with the establishment? Fuck the establishment. You know, if they're wrong, then they're wrong. You shouldn't have to make peace with them just to be mature. And that's not a sign of that either. Page 5 of 6, a short page. Okay. Astrology accurately explains many things. Strongly disagree. You cannot be moral without being religious. Strongly disagree. I'm an atheist. I'm not religious. I am way more moral than a lot of religious people that I have seen. Charity is better than Social Security as a means of helping the genuinely disadvantaged. Strongly disagree. Social Security is necessary because not everybody is generous to give away their money. Sometimes you have to put these things in place that takes the money that you're already getting from taxes to go to specific social programs like Social Security. Some people are naturally unlucky. Okay, I agree. Some people just have no luck, I guess. It is important that my child's school instills religious values. Strongly disagree. We have the First Amendment that strictly prohibits that from happening. It is known as the separation of church and state. I have covered this before in other videos, and it is very, 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 very important to me that the government stays out of religion and religion stays out of the government, and that includes in the school system. Oh, finally, a look at sex. Sex outside marriage is usually immoral. Strongly disagree. I don't know how you can say that sex in or out of marriage is moral or immoral. A same-sex couple in a stable, loving relationship should not be excluded from the possibility of child adoption. Strongly agree. They should be able to adopt as many children as they can afford. Pornography depicting consenting adults should be legal for the adult population. I don't know why it should be illegal. I can't think of a counter argument for that. What goes on in private bathroom between consenting adults is no business of the state. Oh, bedroom, sorry, not bathroom. What goes on in a private bedroom between consenting adults is no business of the state. Strongly agree. No one can feel naturally homosexual. Strongly disagree. I've seen countless examples of all types of animals engaging in homosexual behavior. Nothing wrong with it. These days, openness about sex has gone too far. I disagree. I don't know how far is too far for being open about your sexuality. Now let's see where you stand. Drum roll, please. It's going to give you a little bit of an overview about this. So I'm going to read all this. If we recognize that this is essentially an economic line, then okay, I'll skip a step. In the introduction, we explain the inadequacies of the traditional left-right line, which is this guy. Oh, I can't highlight that. If we recognize that this is essentially an economic line, it's fine as far as it goes. We can show, for example, Stalin, Mao Zedong, and Pol Pot with their commitment to a totally controlled economy on the left hand, on the hard left. Socialists like Mahatma Gandhi and Robert Mugabe would occupy a less extreme leftist position. Margaret Thatcher would be well over to the right, but further right still would be someone like the ultimate free marketeer, General Pinochet. That deals with economics, but the social dimension is also important in politics. That's the one that the mere left-right scale doesn't adequately address. So we've added one, ranging in positions from extreme authoritarian to extreme libertarian, which is shown here. Both an economic dimension and a social dimension are important factors for a proper political analysis. By adding the social dimension, you can show that Stalin was an authoritarian left, i.e., the state is more important than the individual, and that Gandhi, believing in the supreme value of each individual, is a liberal leftist. While the former involves state imposed arbitrary collectivism in the extreme top left, on the extreme bottom left is voluntary collectivism at a regional level with no state involved. Hundreds of such anarchist communities existed in Spain during the Civil War period. You can also put Pinochet, who was prepared to sanction mass killing for the sake of the free market, on the far right, as well as in a hardcore authoritarian position. On the non-socialist side, you can distinguish someone like Milton Friedman, who is anti-state for fiscal rather than social reasons, from Hitler, who wanted to make the state stronger even if he wiped out half of humanity in the process. The chart also makes clear that, despite popular perceptions, the opposite of fascism is not communism, but anarchism, i.e. liberal socialism, and that the opposite of communism, i.e. an entirely state-planned economy, is neoliberalism, i.e. extreme deregulated economy. And it shows you where these most famous people stand. So for those of you who are interested, Stalin is all the way over to the left and almost all the way to the top. Gandhi is very far over to the left, but I'd say about a third of the way down. To the right, here is Hitler. This is why conservatives and Republicans are wrong to say that Hitler was a leftist. This shows that he was on the right just slightly, but he was all the way up at the top at authoritarian or fascism. Fascism is not on the left or the right. It is at the top rather than anarchism or libertarian. Extreme libertarian is anarchism. Extreme authoritarian is fascism. Hitler was on the right and towards the top. Margaret Thatcher way over to the right and about halfway up to the top. Friedman a little bit less than a quarter way down, just above Gandhi actually, and very far over to the right, which is where you have libertarianism or neoliberalism. So I think I'm going to skip all that. Oh, look at here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to the left, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 down. So I'm -7, -7. I actually think that I've changed a little bit. So yeah, okay. So -6.38, -6.36. So not quite 7. So I can round down to 6. So you can actually show in a separate window for printing. See your position plot against the UK parties in the 2015 general election. So of course you can donate. Personalized political compass certificate showing your own position is available online. That's pretty cool. So after you take the test, you'll be presented with a link which you will take to the certificate. After you take the test, you will be presented with a link which will take you to the certificate page. Why can I not say that word? Alternatively, you can go straight to the certificate page where you can fill in your name and score, and a certificate will be generated to match. The certificate will download to your browser as a PDF, which you can save and print at your leisure. You can save the link and re-download it at any time. While the caricatures have been placed in the quadrants appropriate to their political views, we have not attempted to place them accurately within their quadrants. Aesthetics took priority over ideology in this instance, so before you write us to complain that we have Sanders to the left of Mandela, or that Ayn Rand believed in libertarianism only for the elite, Consider that certificate is designed to start conversations, not to settle bets. So, yeah, Donald Trump way up here. Hillary Clinton, look at that. She's on the right because of her policies and heading towards authoritarianism. Gary Johnson, slightly libertarian leaning, but very far right. Jill Stein was like one of the only moderate candidates, and she's slightly on the left and slightly leaning down to libertarian. Holy shit. Okay, Sanders is dead smack in the middle on the left-right spectrum, and then, or the libertarian authoritarian, but he is slightly over to the left, which I think actually he would be down here a little bit more. Clinton right there, then of course Trump, Bush, Cruz, and Rubio are way up there on the right. So that's pretty funny. So let's go back here. We're going to show this in a separate for printing. I'm going to save this page because I'm going to probably do that later. Let's do the certification page. Name. Yep. Can't even spell my own name. Okay, there we go. Get printable certificate. That is pretty interesting. So, yeah, as they mentioned, this is not an accurate representation of everybody here. It's pretty close to where they stand, or where they stand. It's pretty close. So, yeah, there's a lot of... So, yeah, you can see right here, left and right, that's your economic scale. Authoritarian, libertarian is your social scale. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and send that to my printer. It's not going to print just yet. Yeah, the printer's offline, I know, because it's not plugged in. But, yeah, there it is. I need to get some color ink. This document certifies that Jared Lawton inhabits the left libertarian quadrant of the political compass. Hooray! I do encourage everybody to take the political test. It might surprise you to learn where exactly you stand. You might find out something new about yourself that you didn't know. Like, you might be a little bit more left or right-leaning than you thought you were, and you might find that you agree with some of the candidates that you might not have thought you agreed with, which is actually another test that you can take to find out where exactly you stand as far as the candidates from the 2016 election. I think they had the ones that were like from the primaries. So you had Sanders and Clinton and Martin O'Malley from the Democratic primaries, and then Cruz, Rubio, Kasich, Trump, and those other guys. And then I think maybe Jill Stein and Gary Johnson were there too. But you can find who you are mostly alike in that regard. I'll probably take that one in another video, but I just wanted to go ahead and get this one out of the way. So now you know a little bit more about my political stances. Of course, they can always change. I am not so hard dead set on my side that I will defend it against all costs. If somebody on the political left does something idiotic, I'm going to call them out. And I do want it to be known that I do not consider myself to be a Democrat. The most that you will have me to admit to is that I am liberal or left-leaning. I do not associate with Democrats. I do not feel that they represent the people anymore like they are supposed to. Which is a big reason why I am a huge fan of the Justice Democrats. All the candidates there are spectacular that I've seen. They actually stand for real values other than just, oh, well, if my donors are giving me money, I have to go and do this thing. That is going to be it for this video. Please remember to subscribe to the channel. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Share your political compass test results in the comments. I would love to see where everybody stands. If you do decide to get into a discussion, please make sure it's civil. I'm not going to police anybody or remove comments, but I would ask that you just be respectful. We don't need any bickering and arguing about who's right and who's wrong. We can disagree on points and not start a flame war. So that will be it for this video. I will see you guys in the next one, probably doing the other political test to see which candidates I line up with. Spoiler alert, it's probably not going to be Hillary Clinton that I align with. Alright, I'll see you guys next time.